Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Swanson, and I'm welcoming you to the end of COMM 362 Public Relations Writing. I want to thank you for hanging in with me during these times, and I want to thank you for your continued efforts to become excellent communicators, both in writing and in terms of strategic thinking. It's really important as you go out into the world that you become a strategic thinker where you're always thinking about what is the plan for what I'm going to do and how can I carry through that plan. And it's important that you be the best writer that you can be. Research shows among employers in public relations, writing is the number one skill that they look for. So I can't emphasize strongly enough how important it is that you become a really excellent writer. And as I've said during this class is the starting point, not the end point. I want this class to show you what you're good at and where you still need to make improvements and how you can, along the way, improve yourself as a writer. Back at the very beginning of this course, we started with the 9-step writing process, and that's so important still for everything that you do as a writer is to think about it strategically and go through those steps so that you can create copy that is engaging, informative, meaningful, and copy that looks good visually wherever it appears on a web page, on a social media post, on a printed document. That visual aspect of the copy is really important. I hope you feel like you've gained a lot along the way and that at any time in the future, if you have questions or just want somebody to take a look at something you've written, uh, drop me a line, email and say, hey, Swanson, remember me from 362? Here's my resume. What do you think? Can you give me some feedback? I'll be happy to do that kind of stuff for you. So let's talk right now about the fifth topic area in this course, which is strategic writing in business communications. You're probably wondering, what is that? That's a steamboat. That's the Julia Bell Swain steamboat in Wisconsin on the Mississippi River. And for 4 years, I worked on the Julia Bell Swain steamboat as a deckhand and waiter. And not when I was a young man either. I was doing it in my 30s and 40s. Um, and I put that on there for a reason. This this is a wonderful little steamboat, and it was a wonderful business experience for me. I had had business experience before I got here, but this was my first business experience in the entertainment and tourism area. And it was a lot of fun. And I learned so much about how to be a good business person in my work on the boat, in my work interacting with customers, uh, travelers, if you will. In addition to my work on the boat, I also did some work in the office. I handled some reservation activity and a whole lot of things around the office. And then for a while, they put me on the van, and I would lead the land tours. So all the little old ladies would ride on the boat, and we'd arrive at our destination, and they'd get off the boat, and they'd go in the van, and I'd drive them around town and show them things. There's a lot of history in western Wisconsin and in that area of Minnesota too, that's right along the Mississippi River. So this was a really great experience for me. And so my point in showing you this right now is, number one, you've probably never met anybody who's worked on a steamboat, so that in itself is kind of unique. Um, and number two, I want to tell you that you need to look for opportunities to learn about business wherever you land and wherever those opportunities fall, because business is so important in our society. Um, this is a consumer society. This people buy and sell things here. This is how this works, and it's a capitalist consumerist society. And we don't teach you very much about business per se in the communications department. We teach you about communications. We trust that you will gain some business experience. And so what I'm trying to do here is to encourage you to think business-like in everything you do because it's very important. And that's why we include this topic in this class, writing in business communications, because there are so many things that you need to begin to think about and begin to understand that I hope I've helped you out with here. So for example, the lumber camp ethics assignment that you have, you're going to write about a hypothetical case, but it's a hypothetical case that involves law, involves ethics, it involves how we treat people in the business environment. It certainly involves public relations and public relations writing. Um, there's a whole lot of things wound up in that case. And so that case is designed to get you thinking about some of these issues, because oftentimes when you find yourself in the business environment, there are no easy answers. There are no answers that appear immediately and to solve the problem. And so I want to get you ready for that kind of complexity. And I hope that the lumber camp ethics assignment does that. The team assignment, the customer response letters, there too, I want you to start thinking about business and how you would respond to someone in writing in a business environment. Those letters they involve people who feel like at some level there's been an injustice served, or perhaps they don't even know that there's been an injustice served. And so you're writing to them to try to balance the scales to um, accomplish a business purpose and to help maintain the positive image of the organization that you represent as you're writing to them, and to communicate to build mutual understanding. And that's what public relations is all about. It's about mutual understanding. And so even though these letters are on a one-to-one basis, you writing to one person, they're still important. And it's an important part of what we do in public relations. Yeah, sometimes we do social media and events and news releases and things like that target a whole lot of people, but oftentimes we're just targeting one person. And it's really important to get the details right when you're targeting that one person. Even things like spelling of the customer's name. You misspell somebody's name in a letter, it's like boom, you've blown it right off the bat. And so, you got to be careful of those details. And you have to get inside the head of the person you're writing to. What is it they want? What is it they expect? Can you do that? Um, if you can't do that, then you have to come up with an alternate solution. So there's a whole lot of challenges wrapped up in business communication, and these letters are just a very, very small sampling, but I think they're very important. And so I want you to pay um, lots of attention to those. At the end of the class, you're writing a news release as your final exam. So that means you're going to have to think back to the earlier weeks when we talked about news releases, and when you wrote that first news release, you're going to write another one. And gosh, Swanson, why are we doing that? I think we're doing that because we have to have a final exam in this course. And we're doing that because the news release is a keystone document in public relations. If you can do all the balancing needed for the news release, you can create an interesting story. You can make it newsworthy. You can make it appeal to that gatekeeper, the one person who makes the decision about whether or not that news release gets disseminated. If you can do those kinds of things, that's really good. That's really important. You have to create this story that is um, both a good story and structured the way the gatekeeper wants to see it. That's that balance of art and craft, again, that we talked about back in the very first week of the course. The news release has to balance the art and the craft. It's got to be structured right. It's got to visually look right. It's got to tell an interesting story. And so learning how to balance that is really important for a public relations writer. And this is another opportunity for you to get some practice doing that. Please make sure that you've read the learning outcomes in the study guide. That gives you an overview of all of my thoughts on this topic 5. And make sure that you have looked at the linked items that are there in the Canvas topic 5 area. that are all lumped together on that page called Introductory Video Learning Outcomes and Study Guides, Supplemental Materials. Yeah, all that big page right there. Make sure you've taken a look at that. I've got some kind of case studies that are linked on there that I want you to be thoughtful about. Be very careful, as I've just said here, be very careful with your business communication. You can't be careless. You can't be careless in letters, in printed materials, in social media. There's an example in here in Canvas of a public relations person who destroyed her life with a careless social media tweet. I don't want you to be paranoid, but I also want you to recognize that social media follows you everywhere you go. There's a saying that says the internet never forgets. That's true. What you do on Twitter, what you do on YouTube, all of those things are very important. And employers look at that kind of stuff. They look at it before you get a job interview. They look at it after you complete the interview and whether they're going to hire you or not. They look at that. And during your time working for an employer, your social media, even your personal social media, can be an issue. So just be very, very careful about that. And so that allows me to kind of transition into my last subject that I want to talk about here, because you are transitioning into graduation. You are transitioning from the role of student to the role of professional or expert in the workplace. And so that career planning for you is very important. That's why a digital portfolio is a requirement in this department for undergraduates. We want you to have a digital portfolio because we want you to have documentation of what you know how to do. A resume alone won't get you the job. You've got to be able to show people what you know how to do. So as many samples of work as possible, you need to put into that electronic portfolio. Now, no, don't put 10,000 samples in there. No employer is going to look at that. But look, a small number of different types of things. Maybe a news release, a brochure, some kind of tools that you have written for the public relations profession. Some long form writing would be good, a case study or an essay that you've written for a class. Some visual items, some of the samples that you did in 317 would be good. Some screenshots of social media posts, that would be good. Employers want to see that you have variety of writing skills and that you can talk articulately and intelligently about what you have learned along the way and what you feel like you still need to learn, because employers want to know that too. They want to see that you have a plan for your career and your life. And it could be right now that you're saying, I don't know for sure what I want to do. Well, try to work toward having a plan. It doesn't mean you have to plan out your whole life, but what do you want to do in the next 3 to 5 years? That's important. Employers want to know that. They want to give you an opportunity to grow. And so you need to be able to demonstrate your willingness to grow. There's some links in Canvas that talk about these kinds of things. So make sure you look at those. Keep in mind that when you graduate, or when you are graduated, actually grammatically it's are you graduated? When you're graduated from this department, you will be graduated along with about 700 other communications majors. What makes you stand out? What makes you different? What makes you worthy of hiring more than 699 other people? That's a question you need to answer, and you can answer that as you brand yourself through the work that you do, the skills that you obtain, and what you demonstrate in your electronic portfolio. Keep in mind that a resume is very, very important. As I've said in this class already, I don't teach resume writing, so you are responsible on your own for creating a killer resume that looks really, really good and represents you really well. Keep in mind that the Career Services Office has lots and lots of resources to help you, so you're never kind of floating along without help. The Career Services people are fantastic. Please utilize them, utilize their guidance. Keep in mind too that when you do graduate from this department, if you're a communication major, you are a communications major. You're not an advertising major, you're not a public relations major. We have no public relations majors. There is a concentration in public relations. There is a concentration in advertising. I've got the sample diploma in Canvas. And if you'll note, it says communications. It doesn't say PR. It doesn't say advertising. You have to know exactly what this degree is. Now, maybe to you, it sounds like it doesn't matter, but it really does matter. And being able to put on your resume exactly what this degree is very important. And being able to communicate that to employers is very important. If for no other reason than details matter. And an employer says, if you can't get the details right with your own life, how are you going to get the details right for me and for my business? Details matter. As it says in Canvas, since 1990, I've been working to help college students transition into the workforce. That's what I'm here to do. And so throughout this course, I've tried to give you as much guidance as I can in terms of how I see this transition and how I see you need to be ready for it. And I encourage you, as it says in the syllabus, don't take my word for it. Ask other people. Does Swanson know what he's talking about? Swanson says, blah, blah, blah. Is that correct? Is that accurate? Ask other people for their opinions. It's important that you get a wide variety of opinions on what you ought to be doing to transition to the workplace, and then see what fits for you and apply it in a way that fits for you. That's my last final note of advice for right here anyway. Thank you very much for your commitment to excellence in COMM 362. Thank you very much for your work to become excellent at writing. Not perfect, because nobody's perfect. Even moi, nobody's perfect. We want you to be excellent at writing, and we want you to have a plan and go out into the world with that plan and do really, really good things. So that's the last of my video here for today. I thank you very much for your time and attention. And as always, if you have any questions or comments or concerns, drop me a line and we'll talk about it. Take care.